You have probably seen this animation before, and that's legit because it really adds something that we miss from the story of Magic the Gathering. And we don't often get real animations made for our story. The artist is Kiln, and I implore you to check out his other pixel art too. Today I interviewed him to see what his favorite art is and how he looks at the art and cards when he sees new cards. I learn a lot from talking with artists like this, and I hope you will too today. So Kiln, thank you for coming first of all. Yeah, you said one of your favorite arts was this snow-covered mountain. I wonder why is this one of your favorites?
Well, as a pixel artist, I think like I can definitely see a lot of techniques that are used in snow-covered mountain that really make it shine, especially compared to the other snow-covered lands made by Jubilee. Great pixel artist, by the way. I think all of the snow-covered lands in the secret layer are really good, but I think this one in particular is very, as you call it, it strikes me a lot because it uses a lot of techniques that I like to use personally. From the colors that it uses, in hue shifting to like how it avoids kind of like using jaggies a lot to create these curves.
So could you tell us a little bit about these techniques, because I don't know them personally. So.
All right. So some of the techniques used here, the first one I would like to showcase is like the use of hue shifting. So in pixel art, like the goal is usually to like make every color count. You're working with a more limited palette. Blending colors is a lot harder, or at least a lot more trickier than like other mediums where you could just like blend paints together to create color blends, or you could blend like markers together. Here you have to like choose a good in-between color, and the cool part about it is sometimes it's not super obvious what you can use as a good in-between color. And how what I like about this in particular, like it goes from like this highlights of these nice golden yellows and whites to a more like red that's a bit darker, to slowly, as you can see, it contrasts to a purple, which transitions to a blue. So like whereas if you like put the red right next to like the blues directly, it would clash a bit more. But because there's like a slow transition, you're lowering like the saturation a bit, you're lowering the value slowly, and it creates a more natural like balance where it doesn't look as jarring as it normally. Another technique is like how it uses jaggies, which is basically what we use to describe like lines in pixel art that aren't perfectly straight. So like the technique used here to create the curves, a lot of them at least, they go from 1 pixel, then they go down to 2 pixels in a row, then they go down to another 2 pixels in a row, then they go down to 3. There's cases where you do use it, but like I think part of it is knowing when to use it, and I think that's what this piece does really well. It knows when like to use it, but for the most part it follows that rule of creating curves.
What is hard about pixel art is that you have less resources, you have less, I guess, pixels to use. So you have to choose wisely where you put your pixels. Basically, is what you're saying, right? Yeah. So how do you go about that? What's the process?
So I think the best way I could describe it is like what one of my I guess not really a mentor, but someone who I did study a lot from and I did learn from is each one, whenever you place a pixel, it should have purpose. You shouldn't just be placing them as like a space filler. You should be trying to tell something about your piece with it. Which is, I like to think that's true for every art form, but I think it's more important here because it's more like people can directly see it more. Like when people say I can analyze it pixel by pixel, they can actually analyze pixel art pixel by pixel. In fact, that's how I know a lot of people study.
They study these pieces pixel by pixel, actually.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting because I've seen these lands, and I just look at them, I think, wow, this is a pretty picture. But yeah, you can go really in depth with this if you really look at it, like you said, pixel by pixel.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, what do you think about that actually? So people don't really take too long to look at art. Definitely when they play a land, they're pretty quick with it. So how would you take that into account when you would make a piece of art for Magic the Gathering?
honestly, it should follow the, I guess, basic land rule is what I call it, where
Mhm.
yeah, it should look good like at a glance, but there should be
Yeah,
something for people who want to stick around longer, you know? Like
right.
if I'm making something and that piece has details that I like, and I know personally a lot of people won't see, but like the people stick around who want to analyze it more can see. I think that's good because different people. Uh, I think it should like I think art can definitely suit different people with different tastes and different reasons for playing or like viewing a piece of art.
Mhm.
And I think that should definitely use you can definitely cater to both people who just want to use it or something that looks nice at a glance and people who really want to go in depth, because when you like get someone who
Yeah.
wants to do both uh and they find out, oh, there's actually a lot more to this than I thought, then that's when you get something that you'll really enjoy. That's when like someone finds a piece that they really like.
Right. So yeah, so you would have like multiple people in mind, like the people who play Magic who just see this at one moment, where maybe the color composition becomes even more important, for example. And then there's the
Yeah.
people who look longer, where you want to make little things that they can really look at, or they can wonder at how this piece of Red Mountain um, flows so nicely over into the snow, for example, like the contrast, and they see that they love staring at it for longer. So you have those two people.
Yep, definitely.
Interesting. So and that all in all of those pixels. So you're a pixel artist as well, of course. I wonder what is the most, or I guess the largest challenge when you make such a piece, because you said it's for multiple audiences. I feel like that's already a problem, but is there maybe something in the process that makes it harder, or?
I would say the largest problem, I guess, it's not really an issue, but like the thing that's most time consuming,
Mhm.
for me at least, is like the detailing. Because to quote like Kiana Moser, a 6 minute sketch or like a 1 hour sketch, that's it could look almost complete, right? It could like
Yeah.
lay down the foundations of, let's say you're making a house, you could lay down the foundations, the colors, the composition, and you could say, hey, that almost looks complete. But then if you want to fully detail it, if you want to fully like make it look like a usable asset, or like make it the usable a final finished piece, the detailing is usually what takes the most time, because most people can use like a pen tablet or a brush just to like cover the wide swaths of the canvas. But like
Mhm.
this piece, the pen brush was probably used to cover like wide swaths of the canvas. But then like when it comes to smoothing it down pixel by pixel, adding the details, uh the pen, I applaud you, because that's extremely difficult to do. But most people will just use a mouse, and what they'll do is just place it individually with a mouse, piece
Mhm.
by piece, and then yeah. So what could like be a 1 hour sketch, it could take them like 6 hours to fully finish and fully detail, because
Right.
it's very meticulous like that.
So the details
And
actually are the most time consuming, and there's maybe way less time in the maybe composition and I guess first sketch
yeah,
really is done in maybe half an hour or something.
yeah.
Right.
Like I know a lot of people who can just like draw pretty fast, like a sketch. But then
Mhm.
when it comes to detailing, like there's really no workaround. Like you have to
No.
detail a lot of it by mouse. So and
Wow.
pretty slow. You can get fast, but there's a limit to how fast you can get.
That's really interesting actually, because you made a whole animation, and animations already take days.
A while. It
So
takes a while.
yeah, so you made a lot of pixel art as well in these animations. So can you give me an estimation of how long it took? Like how long does one frame take, and maybe how long did the whole project take you? For example, with the Elspeth one.
Like the Elspeth versus the Johnny one. I would say, let's see. The backgrounds took me like 3 hours. A lot of the assets are actually reused from my old pieces. The portraits, I could finish them in like maybe 1-2 hours per portrait. But like the thing that takes the longest was like the animation for the attack animations, because that one's gonna take me like a couple, because there's a lot of unique frames, there's a lot of things to consider, and I have to like, it's not, when you deal with animation, it's a lot harder than just making a piece, because sometimes you need to get the timing right. So like I was balancing, okay, how many milliseconds should I time this? How many like milliseconds should this frame be? Because some frames should be there for like maybe 50 milliseconds, some should be there for like 40 milliseconds, some can be there for like 70 milliseconds.
So you said really, you said like, weeks by the way, a couple weeks, or
1 week. It could take it'll take me like a week to get animation down. But like, you know, realistically, if I have other obligations, it's gonna take me longer than a week, because I can't dedicate my entire time to animating.
Yeah, I can feel that. So as a pixel artist, I wonder, are there pixel artists that you are a big fan of and that you would definitely buy new secret lairs for? Like, what's the first one that you would buy?
I would say the Kiana Moser secret lair, if that ever happens. Wizards, make a Kiana Moser secret lair. You've done Jubilee, like she's also like a very classic, I guess, pixel artist. Like I think most people who are getting into the medium now, like they know her name. They've definitely seen some of her work. I think another one is I like is Moauko, because I've been copying their style a lot, and I've been studying it because it's just really detailed. I made like some cat and dog tokens that are based off some of his work. I made a shark food token that's like based off of some of his work as well. And I think if we made a secret layer of based on like some of the cute animal stuff he's done, I think it would sell insanely fast.
Of course, cute animals always work very well. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the secret layer? That's gonna sell out.
The which secret layer?
The one with the cats. I think it was OMG Kitties.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah.
I agree. Like cute things will definitely sell out really, really quickly, and when it's with an artist that can make cute things, I think it's done. It's sold out. Okay. But what if you got to make a secret lair, like, and you got to choose 4 cards? Like, what 4 cards would you choose to make art for?
I believe I would make for like Aurochs Herd, which is my favorite Magic card of all time. I would just have a set of 4 Aurochs Herd styled very differently in very different, like, referencing very different games. So maybe one could be like a Mario style platformer, another one could be like Pokemon, another one could be like Fire Emblem or something. And it would just be Aurochs Herd.
That's awesome. So Aurochs Herd, where does your love for Aurochs Herds come from?
Aurochs Herd, I like it because when I was starting out, I just saw the card in a binder, and then I thought, wow, this is actually really cool. It's a 4/4 for 5 with trample, and it can search out other Aurochs. It wasn't later until I realized Aurochs were bad, but Aurochs, like, it has some niches in Pauper, but that's about it. That's all I'll give it. It has some niches in Paupertron, but
you just want to make 4 pieces of it because you fell in love with it so long ago.
Yes, I would make it. I would make that, but assuming like Wizard says you actually have to put monetary value in this secret lair, then fine, I'll just throw in maybe a jeweled lotus, maybe like some commanders, like an Animar or something.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like Wizards would say that as well. Or you would already have to be a really famous artist to make this. Like maybe if you would make an animation with
Yeah.
it about the Oryx herd, maybe then.
That's not a bad idea.
Actually,
just make Aurochs herd a huge meme.
exactly. If you make it a huge meme, then yeah, they would do this, and people would buy it for the memes. I feel like then you have a
True.
chance. Yeah, so the second piece of art actually that you told me about is Halvar, and what you said is, well, it is a card that has artwork which on its own is fine, but it is elevated by the showcase frame. You said to me the art doesn't stop with the depiction of Halvar. This entire card is a piece of art, and I think that's really interesting because, of course, magic is or magic art is shown through the medium of the card. So can you tell me a bit more about this, about how the art works so well with the card frame?
I think the reason why the art works with the card frame is because I think the Kaldheim card frame is already very flavorful on its own. You can see like a lot of intricate runes and a lot of the culture of like this plane just by looking at the frame. But also like you can see how art specifically to create this I guess as image that elevates it to another level. Like if I just saw the art for Halvar God of Battle for the showcase frame, I'd say it looks good, but then you have like this curving arc, right? That curves over Halvar himself. Then you have like the artwork I guess the of wherever Halvar is, like the statues in the background, like this large gateway behind him looks like it's all pointing upwards.
Oh yeah.
And which like draws you, which like after you look at Halvar himself, it points you upwards and draws your attention to like the frame which surrounds him. I think that's a good way of like visualizing the flow of how you're supposed to view the art. Yeah. And I also think like how everything is pointing up as opposed to Halvar being like this strong horizontal force. Like the sword is going horizontally, his arm is pointing horizontally. It's almost like a Z he's making. I think that's also a good contrast. Brings your eyes right to him in a like frame and background that's all pointing upwards.
Right. So is that what you mean with the arc, like the fact that Halvar is in a Z, or you mean something else with arc?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's what I mean. It's a very good way of like getting your eyes, point your eyes towards Halvar first, and then like when you're done looking at that, looking at the background being the second thing you do. It's a good way of directing the flow. And it's very good at doing that, in my opinion.
The art also feels really, really strong. Do you feel the same? And can you tell me what emotion it convokes with you?
I think like the best way to describe the emotion I feel with this is like it's the legacy of Halvar, because I'm gonna reference like the actual regular frame of Halvar, and if we go there, we just see this guy, the god himself, and it's just him posing. It's just him like doing. It's not a bad piece of art, but then like you see the showcase frame and you see like it's almost in a sense what he was like in his prime, almost fighting off this like what looks like a horde of demons or giants or whatever threats on Kaldheim there are, with like a sword in hand. The first one like shows a god of what he is, or like that's
Realistic.
just him. This is what the god looks like. This shows what he does.
Yeah, of course there are other gods that have this showcase frame, but you're saying maybe these have less impact on the frame, or maybe the creatures fit less well with these frames.
I think like the creatures. I think the other cards are fine. They're really good. This showcase frame, I don't think you can go wrong with it. But I think I think specifically, Milivoj. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, by the way. Milivoj Siran is very good at like showing how we is like good at using the flow of direction in combination with like the frame. Like with Arnie Broken Brow, we can see the same thing. The stones are pointing towards the upper left, but Arnie himself contrast to like everything else going on.
Right. So we see like a giant moving to the top left, but the sword of Arnie at least is pointing up. So that's a contrast. What you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very good use of contrast to direct the flow and attention of the viewer. I think that's I think it doesn't like say the others are bad, but more so it says it just showcases how good he is at like making the at using like contrast to their advantage.
So the third piece of art that you showed me was about Traxos, this huge, giant, metallic monster that has awoken after many years, or so it feels. You said actually, well, for one, that you love giant monsters. Can you tell me more about that and why things being giant maybe are interesting to make art of?
I think like it's definitely that one. I could use more canvas size, which is always a fun thing to do. I can always put in more details with giant monsters. But I think another thing is just that I don't. When I was starting out, I was awful at human anatomy. But one thing you could do, right, even if you're awful at human anatomy, is make a giant monster. Because like no one's gonna judge you if like some proportions are a bit off. Because it's a monster, it's not supposed to be human. In fact, the more creepy you make it look like, it's, you know, the better, right? For some people.
Right. Tell me, let's say you got the assignment to make Traxos or another big chunky dragon. Like, where would you start to make sure that you get the feeling right of this being such a big monster?
I think a lot of the best MTG creatures that show they're big, aside from like having a big stat line, I think it's like they have good environments. So if they're in a forest, they shouldn't just be like as tall as the trees. Make them taller than the trees. Make the trees like reach. If you want like Kogla Titan Ape, he is as huge as like a good chunk of the mountain.
Right.
And then here in Traxos, we see him just like not only as big as the buildings in the background, he's actively just destroying them, showing that yeah, he's as big as one and he can take one down.
Exactly. So it shows his strength as well.
So like I think the first thing I would do is like make a good composition. And then I would like start sketching out, you know, ideas for how I could depict them, how the perspective could work, and how I could play with that to show like how large this monster is.
Right.
That's what I'd do at least.
Okay, so if you look at this art, like, what do you think the first composition was before all the details came into being? Like, what are the most important?
I think it would be like a rough sketch of the monster, particularly the head and like the tail and the perspective they'd go for. Then I would say they threw in some of the buildings in the back, and then maybe like this part in the front that shows like the people among the rubble and the ruins. I think that'd be the rough sketch. And then slowly they would just add more details, like maybe the sand coming down from the mouth, the dust clouds, the almost cracking earth is what probably came last.
Right, those do really add a lot from making him feel as if he is emerging. One other thing, like there's strength, there's the size, but there's also, it seems like a lot of movement in this art, while of course this art stands still. How would you go about making movement, and how would you go about making movement actually for something so big?
I would say I think canvas size is gonna be. I think a tricky thing about monsters, at least, is how you can dip like a lot of movement or dynamic movement, because
Mm.
there's like you have limited screen space,
Yeah.
and I think to show that, a good way is like to play with perspective to create a dynamic pose. Don't just make one of him standing, make one of him like in the middle of doing an action. Like here, I think it's a tail swing,
Mm.
and he's moving his body a bit to the side.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the perspective that it's playing with. It's swinging at the back, and it's destroying some buildings. I think another way to show like action is a good way this piece does it is it's showing like not the action of Traxos himself, but the action of like the destruction he's causing. So you can see a
Right.
lot of the buildings he's flinging through the sky. It's almost creating this warped landscape. I think that's a good way to show actions, because even if he himself is not moving that much,
Yeah.
you can see the world around him is moving in response to him. And I think that's also like a very cool effect you can play with. I wish more people would actually play with that idea,
Yeah, like the
because
monster
I think
you're
it's
creating
cool.
isn't the only movement that has to be. All right. So the last one is about Kiora, and aside from some of the obvious beautiful things about this art, I wonder why you chose this as one of your favorites.
Honestly, I'd have to say like the color composition is just really nice. I think this is like the best Kiora we've had.
Okay,
And
that's
like out of all the Kioras, like mechanically, I don't know. I don't play alchemy, but like in terms of the art, I think this is the best Kiora we've had.
right. So
like-
why is that actually the best Kiora that we have had?
I think it's, Magali Villanueva is really good at like making these like bright colors contrast well with like the dark, and I think that makes it just very pleasant to look at. So like you can see the highlights, it's very clearly on Kiora over here. I think like the
Right.
things with the highest values, the colors with the highest values, at least on this art, from the metallic like seashell armor to the to like how it's the highlights on the skin, like the almost shiny blue.
Right.
I think that's like the fact that you these like colors on Kiora herself. I think that's a good way to put your subject first, and then
Right.
like you see the environment around her, the tentacles, the crashing waves. It's all like it's all very circular. It's all very like it also has a very nice flow. So like when
Mhm.
you're done looking at Kiora, look at the background, and it almost like blends well together. Kyora's just standing straight line. The Bident is also there, straight line.
Yeah.
But like everything else, the clouds are archaic, chaotic, almost
They're everywhere.
circular.
Yeah.
Or the tentacles are circular, the waves are circular. So like yeah, it's a good contrast between like the general shapes. And I think that makes it also very that's another part of the composition that I also like a lot. So that's the combination with the composition and the colors.
Right.
It also reminded me of sorry, not Jesper Edgesing's work,
Mhm.
because Jesper Edgesing uses also a lot of these like contrasting colors a lot, like a lot of strong highlights contrasted the with some of the darker colors, and it makes
see.
it like the very vibrant, I guess. And I
Yeah,
think
so
it
it's
kind of
like-
reminds me of that.
So you know Kiora's main piece here because maybe between the blue and the orange there's such a contrast, and then as well between maybe like the almost reds of the tentacle and like sort of green water.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very like vibrant. It almost yeah, it's just very vibrant overall, and I really like vibrant colors. I think especially when we compare it to like maybe Behemoth Beckoner, where it's nice in its own way, where we see Kiora with like a giant standing atop a giant monster, but it's very foggy in the background, and Kiora's colors here lean more towards like the shadows and darker tones of blue. Nothing really strikes out as like the highlights aren't as bright, and I think that's why I'm more leaning towards like Tide's Fury's artwork, because again the colors are just so much have a so much better contrast, and like I think it's pops out more as an effect of that.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So you say you love vibrant colors as well. Like, can you tell me a bit more about that? Like, how does an artist use that, like vibrant colors?
I think like you can use vibrant colors in a lot of ways. Like first one is contrast to make like the centerpiece of your art pop. I think another way to use vibrant colors is like you can use like the background. You can use it in like the backgrounds to create like these almost I guess colorful like canvases that complement your main piece. I think I did a Kirby piece that used this effect where a lot of the color was actually spent to create the starry night sky and the like trail of and the rainbow trail left by the warp star. That's how I used like a lot of vibrant colors.
Right. So
to create
you say,
like a composition.
You say a lot of the color was used. Like, is there a maximum amount of color that you can use in a piece, or how would you feel that?
I'd say like plus each color you add feels like it has meaning in the piece. Feels like you're not just adding it for the sake of color. I'd say go as many as you'd like. Like here in Kiora's piece, like I see the purples beneath the tentacles. I'm not gonna say, oh, that's one color too many. I'm saying, oh no, man, use the purples. That's a very good use of purple. Yeah. Or like the green in the kelp. Like it's only used for the kelp, but it's a very good use of green. Very nice to contrast the trident with everything, the bident, I mean, with everything else going on in the piece.
Yeah. So it's more about whether you use the color, like.
Yeah, it's about where you use it, how you use it, and if there's a purpose for using it.
Right. So okay, it needs to be not too much maybe, but as long as it has the right purpose, it's fine to use any color. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Just don't throw in things like for the sake of throwing them in, and you'll be fine. Right. That's my advice to any artist listening.
Okay, good one. I feel like the first thing people talked about with this art is the fact that you have the sort of Finding Nemo reference in the bottom left. I wonder what do you think about Easter eggs and using them? Like, do you do it or?
I like it. I love Easter eggs. It I think shows like the artist is passionate about what they're making. Because think about it, if an artist could just make something and have it be the end of it, he could have just Magali Villanueva could have just like, okay, here's Kiora, and I'm not even gonna include the Finding Nemo reference. But you took the time to make a Finding Nemo reference, and I think that's really cool because it shows like I like this enough so that I'm gonna throw in a small reference to it. I'm gonna put in the extra work to make like a small reference to it, and I think that's really nice.
Right. So maybe these kind of details are a way to sort of maybe show that you love your own art. Maybe that's it.
Yep, it shows that you love what you're referencing, you like what you're working on. Because I imagine like that much more time on it than I have to. So yeah, I think that's one way of looking at an Easter egg. I think another way of looking at this is it's a very strong way of. It's a very nice little thing for anyone looking at your art. Maybe not everyone's gonna get it, but like the 10%, 15% of people who are gonna get it, they're in for a nice surprise.
Right. Yeah, it's for a smaller audience because not everyone will get the reference maybe, or maybe it wasn't even a reference. But yeah, it works for some people, and they will be very happy with finding it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can also imagine that you're maybe a bit afraid of people not finding them.
Honestly, I don't mind if people don't find them. I'm the kind of guy who'll take a look at some art and says, okay, let's see how long until someone discovers this.
Right.
Because
okay.
Yeah.
It's more like a hunt in that way that you set out.
Yeah, because like I can put Fibblethip in one thing and like see how long it takes until people find Fibblethip. That's always fun. It's also nice to see how many of them people can find. I think to this day I think there might have been some references in some of my art that people yet or still haven't seen or pointed out yet. But yeah. But who knows?
Any hints?
Maybe they'll be found someday.
Right, true. Any hints on where to look? Or
no, I'm not gonna give anyone any hints. I think you guys should just. I'll see if someone figures it out on their own.
Right, I do agree with that. Please do check out Kiln's art. Actually, where can people find you?
I'm mainly on Twitter, but like, yeah, that's where I mainly post. Just go to the media tab, you'll find pretty much everything like I've made.
All right, so everything you've made is on your Twitter actually. So what's your Twitter?
My Twitter is at @thepixelslime1. Though, like you can just like try typing in Kiln on the or maybe Kiln pixel art, and you should be able to find me.
Yeah, so @thepixelslime1, and then I will of course also put your information in the description. So if you don't have Twitter open right now, you can click it open down below. Is there anything you are working on right now, Kiln, that you'd like to shout out, or?
I'm not working on anything big at the moment. Just some like tokens for sale later at the convention I'm going to. But yeah,
some tokens.
Aside from that, yeah, nothing super big at the moment.
I don't know. Tokens
so I am
are really
tempted
cool.
to get. Yeah.
So what kind of tokens are you making?
I have some food tokens, cat and dog tokens. I think I have a vampire token. Working on a treasure one right now. That's that should be out by like tomorrow. Oh. But yeah.
Sounds like big stuff, to be honest. But okay. So and people can buy that, or is that not the case?
The downloadable files are on my Patreon. So like you can print your own, as many of them as you want. Because I think if you were to buy them from me physically, the shipping would cost an arm and a leg. That's alone. Because other half of the world, it's not cheap.
I think this is a better way, actually. So just subscribe to your Patreon, and you can have a bunch of tokens that you can use however much you like. I like that better, actually.
Yep, so, just sub to the Patreon and you get the file forever. It's yours. You can print as many as you'd like.
Good one.
High quality, easy to print, adjusted for like colors are already adjusted for like printing, so you don't even need to adjust that yourself. So yeah.
They're ready to print, and then you can have food. You said treasure, dogs. Dogs are 3 ones, and cats.
Yeah, dogs, cats, treasures, food, pretty much anything you can think of.
Awesome. Okay, so good idea to definitely subscribe to that Patreon. And otherwise, I want to thank everyone for watching. And definitely check out Kiln. Do you want to say anything to the people who view Kiln?
Yes. It's buy Morok's Herd. We want this thing to be meta, okay? Let's get this thing meta so wizards can actually print more of it. And we can show him that we want Auroch's Herd.
We want Auroch's Herd. So everyone buy a playset and show how much demand there is for it. And then maybe we'll see Kiln in a secret lair with Auroch's Herds soon. And maybe even an animation about it. But that's not certain yet. So hope for it. And otherwise, have a nice day, everyone.
Bye.